What is up, guys? Delboy here. So this weekend we have a light heavyweight title fight between Sergey Kovalev, the WBO light heavyweight champion, and Eleider Alvarez. I think this is a decent fight. Eleider Alvarez is a guy who has been on the periphery of a title shot for quite some time. He was once mandatory for Adonis Stevenson's WBC title. You know, that fight never really materialised, but he's been highly ranked now for quite some time. Eleider Alvarez has wins over the likes of Jean-Pascal and Lucien Bute. He also beat both of these guys convincingly. He stopped Lucien Bute quite brutally, and he beat Jean-Pascal by a majority decision. How that fight was a majority decision, I will never know. He clearly beat Jean-Pascal. He just kept him behind his jab and kept it at range and outboxed Pascal for the most part. You know, he's beat those two guys. He's also beaten Isaac Chilemba. Now, that was a close fight. Could have gone either way. He beat Robert Berridge, who is a fringe contender. He beat Edison Miranda, who was well past his best. He beat Rhino Liebenberg. He was kind of a prospect at the time. So Eleider Alvarez has got some names on the resume, and he does deserve a title shot. Eleider Alvarez is pretty much a consensus top 10 light heavyweight at this point. So it's about time he got his title shot, and I think it's a good solid title defense for Sergey Kovalev. I actually feel this is Kovalev's toughest opponent since his losses to Andre Ward, and for the record, I felt Kovalev beat Ward in the first fight relatively clearly. You know, I don't really feel there was a case of giving that fight to Andre Ward. And in the rematch, obviously Kovalev lost by stoppage. I felt the stoppage was bullshit, but I felt Kovalev in that fight looked terrible. Apart from the first 3 rounds, I felt Kovalev looked off the pace, and I felt he was on his way to losing that fight, to be quite honest. I know the stoppage was really bad, but Kovalev looked off that night, and I don't think he was winning that fight regardless, I'll be completely honest with you. But we move on from that, you know, that's all done now. We move on with Kovalev's career and we'll see where he goes. But I do feel this Eleider Alvarez fight is the toughest opponent since Andre Ward. Now, Eleider Alvarez does have a few attributes going into this fight. So, for example, Kovalev is listed as 6'2", Alvarez is listed as 6 foot. So Kovalev is taller, but Kovalev's reach is listed as 72.5 inches, whereas Eleider Alvarez, his reach is listed as 75.5 inches. So Alvarez has a 3-inch reach advantage on Sergey Kovalev. And to me, both of these guys are better on the outside. And that's going to be interesting because it's going to be interesting to see Kovalev kind of close the range on Alvarez to find the target with that right hand. Is he going to walk into some jabs from Alvarez? Is he going to walk into the Alvarez right hand? Can Alvarez kind of make the most of his superior reach advantage? That's going to be interesting. Alvarez, to me, is a pretty textbook boxer. He likes to use that jab. He likes to use that right hand. He's got pretty good movement. His all-round skills are pretty solid. But to me, Alvarez doesn't really do anything great. You know, he's one of those fighters who is pretty solid fundamentally, but doesn't do anything great. And I think to beat a fighter like Kovalev, you've got to have some outstanding attributes. And I don't think Alvarez does. You know, he's solid, he's sound, he's long, but that's pretty much it. You know, he doesn't carry a lot of power. He hits pretty hard, but 11 knockouts in 23 fights doesn't really suggest that he carries the most power. And I know that knockout ratios don't always gauge power that well. You know, looking at someone's knockout ratio doesn't necessarily tell how hard they hit. But I've seen enough of Alvarez to know that the guy's not the biggest puncher in the world. He's got respectable power, but, you know, nothing that is going to trouble elite light heavyweights. He's got enough power to knock out a shot Lucien Bute, but, you know, even a semi-shot Jean-Pascal, he couldn't really put a dent in him. Also against Isaac Chilemba, again, never really put a dent in him either. So when Alvarez has stepped up, to me, his power's not really translated that well. Apart from the Bute fight where I felt Bute was well past his best, you know, his power's never really been a factor. So, you know, I think he hits hard enough to gain Kovalev's respect, but he's not going to knock Kovalev out with one clean shot. And going into this fight, looking at both fighters, I feel Kovalev pretty much does everything better. Like I said, both guys are outside fighters, but Kovalev has a better jab, better right hand. He's much better at gauging range and setting up his shots. He's got more power. He's got more experience. He's just more dynamic. Kovalev might have a few tricky rounds here and there, get into grips with the reach advantage of Eleider Alvarez. But once he's got to grips with that, I feel he's going to slowly, systematically break down Eleider Alvarez and get a stoppage victory. I think Alvarez will make a good account of himself, but he just doesn't have the special qualities to beat Sergey Kovalev as far as I'm concerned. Alvarez is a good fighter. He's fundamentally sound. He's top 10 in the division, but just not good enough to beat Sergey Kovalev as far as I'm concerned. Also, on a side note, on this card, Dmitry Bivol defends his WBA light heavyweight title against Isaac Chilemba. It's going to be interesting to see how Bivol kind of deals with Chilemba. I think we're all expecting Bivol to beat Chilemba. I feel Chilemba now is past his best. But Chilemba on his day, he can be an awkward type of spoiler. And it's going to be interesting to see how Bivol, finds his range, gets to the target and see how he does with that style. I know Isaac Chilemba is coming off a semi-decent win over Blake Caparello, but I don't really feel he's going to pose too many issues for Dmitry Bivol. Bivol is my favourite fighter at light heavyweight right now. Really like his style. I love his movement. I just love his style of fighting. Textbook, pretty simple, but nice on the eye, fluid, good power, solid fundamentals. I really like Bivol. He's my favourite light heavyweight. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he does against Isaac Chilemba. Maybe Chilemba could spoil and he could make Bivol look bad, but I'm not sure how much Chilemba has left. We'll see. But relatively decent card. Looking forward to seeing how Kovalev looks. I think he's in there with a decent opponent. So, we'll see. What do you guys think? Peace.